Welcome back, everybody, to Living a Joyful Life Summit. I'm Trudy Goodman, very happy to be here with journalist, author, advocate, and friend, Maria Shriver. Maria Shriver is an Emmy-winning and Peabody Award-winning journalist, a 7-time New York Times best-selling author, an NBC News special anchor, and founder of the nonprofit the Women's Alzheimer Movement at Cleveland Clinic, the award-winning weekly newsletter, which I subscribe to and love and recommend, called The Sunday Paper, and the brain wellness company, Mosh. She is the founder of Shriver Media, an innovative for benefit multimedia production company. And Maria's latest book, a #1 New York Times bestseller, is called I've Been Thinking, Reflections, Prayers, and Meditations for a Meaningful Life. It was written to offer wisdom, guidance, and inspiration to all of us who are seeking to create a meaningful life. So, welcome, Maria. It's really wonderful to be with you today. And I was remembering when I first met you, you were the First Lady of California, and I was teaching at one of the women's conferences that you did. And I remember being so touched by your kindness to everybody around you. And it made us all feel joyful to be around you. So I want to ask you some questions about creating a joyful life and just how you do that.
Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of your summit. I'm here because you've brought so much joy to my life, your friendship, Jack's friendship. When I see you, when I see him, when I see you together, I just feel joy. I feel joy that I'm in the company of two people who are bringing joy to the world, who are in joy themselves, who love each other, who love the world, who love what they're doing, who want to share what they're doing with others. And I think that's kind of how I define joy. It's a kind of feeling from the inside out. You exude that. And I value our friendship. And I value and honor the work that you have done and are doing as an individual and as a couple. So I want to be in support of the message that you're trying to put out into the world.
Well, thank you, Maria. I feel the same joy when I see you, and I know Jack does too, whenever we get all too rare occasions to hang out together or come over to your house. We are both so happy. We're happy on the way, and we're even happier on the way home after we got to together.
Well, I think that's what it is. I think you grow up thinking happiness, we're always talking about the pursuit of happiness. And, I hope our kids will be happy, or someone says, I hope you will be happy, but they don't really tell you what that is. So you think it's going to be some feeling that's going to be with you like every day, all day long. And it's like being at Disneyland or something. But I think joy is much more approachable. Joy is something that we feel kind of, as I said, from the inside out. You know it when you're feeling it. I feel it, as I said, when I'm in company with you guys. I feel it when I'm playing with my granddaughters. I feel it when I'm in the company of my kids, when they're making me laugh. Even when they're making me think, I feel joy. I feel joy in my work because I feel it. I'm in a meaningful zone for me. And I feel joy that I'm doing what I feel is in my divine purpose. And so I think it's that feeling of like, you don't have to force a smile. It's not a fake thing. It's just there. Like when you popped up on the screen, I'm like, there's Trudy, and it's just that kind of feeling that I'm feeling right now, that, ebbs and flows in one's life, ebbs and flows in one's day. But I think you can live a joyful life, even if there's sadness in your life, even if there's heartache in your life, even if there's struggle in your life. All of these feelings, I've learned, coexist. They can coexist in a given day, in a given week, and in a given life.
Yes, that's so beautiful. I really feel that's one of the elements of awakening in our lives is understanding that all of these feelings actually can peacefully coexist in
Not
a day.
always peacefully. They maybe not always peacefully. But I think, yeah, I think we don't talk about that. I don't think we talk about the paradox enough. I don't think we talk enough about holding conflicting emotions in a given day. And I try to talk to my kids about that. So they're saying, oh, well, I'm struggling or this is hard. I'm like, well, nothing's easy. Don't expect something to be easy. You can expect to have a struggle. You can expect to be, working hard at something, and you can feel joy, and then you can go back to struggle, and you can feel loneliness, then you can feel companionship, and you can feel all of these things. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean you're having a lonely, terrible life. It's just that's what life is. It's going through all of these emotions and understanding that the life we create for ourselves, we can label it however we choose. As I say
That,
to my kids, I can say I'm living a meaningful, authentic, joyful life, or I can say, isn't this just a drag? I'm just like, it's just sucks what I'm going through, right? It's how the narrative that we tell ourselves and that we project out, I think, is super important. Words. I'm a big believer in words. I'm a big believer in storytelling. I've devoted my life to storytelling. And I think the storytelling that we tell ourselves is equally as important as the storytelling as a journalist that I'm out trying to find to convey to a television audience or a Sunday paper audience. But also, what is the story I'm telling to myself about my life, about my journey? And is that a negative one, or is it one that combines all of these different emotions? And so I've come to understand that it's really important. The narrative that we have about our own lives is very important.
and I think when I said peacefully coexist, there are moments of a day. Like, for example, I know that you have been a meditator,
Yeah,
and I've actually watched you over the years
I'm not a
become more and more of a meditator and a deeper and deeper meditator. And I think that that is really key to what you're talking about, because it gives you, I think you have, you've always been very aware, but you've cultivated a whole nother level of awareness of what your mind is telling you and saying.
That's true. I kind of very set out really on a quest to understand my mind, to understand my thoughts, to understand how did I get to where I was at a given point? Where am I going? What role do my thoughts play in where I'm going? And that I found it interesting that I was a journalist out reporting all the time, and yet I had failed to report on my own life to myself. I had failed to present my life in a way that worked for me, and that was empowering to me. I was always focused on telling other people's stories, and yet the story I was telling myself wasn't accurate about my own journey. So I think meditation helped me go deeper within. Pain helped me go on that journey. Struggle helped me go on that journey. Things that I had been afraid of, I confronted and saw that they were things I had just been afraid of and I didn't need to be. And so I think learning how to sit in solitude, learning how to be in company with myself, learning how to question my thoughts and understand that they were just thoughts and that they ebbed and flowed and that they didn't and couldn't rob me of what I had decided was a deeply meaningful, authentic, joyful life, that I was the narrator of that story. So I think all of these things sometimes come with age, they come with pain, and they come with a decision to make a left or a right turn in your life.
Exactly, exactly. And I think, I mean, it's actually been inspiring to, from a distance watch you navigate your journey and to just see the spiritual bravery as well as all the professional accomplishments and bravery that you've had during your whole life. And I think it's really easy for people like you people like us who have really devoted our lives to being of service in different ways to others, to forget to include ourselves in that circle of compassion. And it's very hard to be joyful if you don't do that.
I know. I think that I certainly was not raised with the message to be compassionate to myself. That was not in the zeitgeist as I was growing up. That's not something my mother or my father spoke about, even though they were both deeply religious, went to church every day, prayed extensively. They never spoke to me about offering compassion to myself. Everything was about changing the world, going out into the world, not complaining, being tough, being strong. And so the idea of showing compassion and empathy for others, but never for yourself. And so I have tried to kind of change that trajectory with myself, break that pattern in my family, and try to talk to my children about showing compassion to themselves and to their siblings, showing compassion to others, showing compassion to myself, to their father, to be gentle with themselves. I think it's certainly important to expect things from yourself. I think being a perfectionist is not helpful, but expecting things from yourself, setting a bar for yourself, having goals for yourself. But I don't think beating yourself up and offering compassion to others, but not to yourself, is productive.
Well, no, it does not lead to a joyful life.
Yeah.
And you're here living your joyful life. And I love your Sunday paper. I read every week. It's full of wisdom. And I love that you're very generous in your support to others. You've been supportive of me, of InsightLA all along. And I think that generosity too brings joy, don't you?
Yeah, well, I love, as I said, I love lifting other people up. I love, if somebody has a great idea, writes a great article, has a great organization, and they need support. I'm in my jam when I'm doing that. I feel like that's the purpose. I love that the Sunday paper lifts so many other people up. That was its original intention. It came out of it was very intention focused. It came out of a desire to do service journalism, to lift up the journalism of others, to lift up the work of others. And I think its growth has come from strictly, really word of mouth, but also it has come from that generous place of people all wanting to lift each other up. And so I think I feel very proud of the work of the Sunday paper. I feel very proud of the people writing in the paper, sharing their wisdom, their hard-earned lessons. I always say these are architects of change reporting from the front lines of their lives. There are truth tellers that have come to their truth through grit, through determination, through resilience, through pain, through struggle. And they're generous enough to step back and write about it and share it with the hope of lighting someone else's path forward to a more joyful life, to a more meaningful life, to a more authentic life, to a life more of purpose, one of mission. I think people, want to live those kind of lives and very often don't know where to start or how to start, or maybe they find themselves at 40 or at 50 or at 60 having to reevaluate or reimagine their lives. And I think the Sunday paper has served really, and does serve, I hope, as a roadmap for how to do that and for a window into how many millions of people are doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a huge service. I really love it, and I think it also speaks to it's like an antidote to the competition in our society.
Yeah.
Up that we can share, that there's enough to go around. It's not a zero-sum game, and I think it speaks to the power of connection, of connecting with each other. And that's sort of how you started out, by talking about the joy of connection. Like, we're just happy to see each other.
Yeah, I think community. I think, we've heard a lot about how many people feel lonely, how many people are yearning, longing for community, for friendship, for partnership. And I believe that, that this community, the one that you're in, the one that you're reaching out to with this summit, the one that the Sunday paper is in, the one that so many others are in, is, a community of a community, first and foremost, of compassion, is a community. And I think those words aren't soft. I think it takes real internal fortitude and grit and resilience to love in this world, to stand up in strength with that, to talk about compassion, to talk about community. These aren't, women's issues or soft issues. I think we want our leaders to talk about these issues. I think we want our leaders to exemplify and light that path forward for us. I heard somebody saying just the other day, well, I think so and so would be a good person to lead the country because they're tough and they're this and they're that. And that's what we need out in the world, because all these other people are crazy and tough and, out of their minds as well. So we need to meet it with someone else like that. And I couldn't disagree more. I think we need to meet it with a different version of humanity. I think we need to show that there is great strength and fortitude in these, what are used to be viewed as women's issues, but are real strong human rights issues.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because it's true that when we teach mindfulness, when we teach compassion, when we teach practices for joy, they are often considered soft. And maybe even there's a fear that if I do these things, I will be weaker in some way.
You lose your edge.
Exactly.
Yeah. Somebody very close to me said, oh, well, Maria, if you're going to do that meditating, talking about love and kindness, you're going to lose your edge. And I said, well, maybe you don't have the edge by not getting involved in that. I think it's redefining what is edge, redefining what is power, redefining what is success. I think we're at a time in our history where we need new language to meet new skills, and we require new skills to lead in this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I wonder too, you do a lot of work with research on behalf of Alzheimer's with the Cleveland Clinic and your organization. And maybe you'd like to say something about that in terms of, this is soft power and it's real power.
Well, I think women's health is a huge issue in our country. Women are sicker than ever before. They're on the front lines when it comes to caregiving. They are working, they are parenting, they are caregiving. They're doing all of these things, and they're reporting record high numbers of illness. They're 80% of all of the autoimmune diseases. They're 2/3 of those with depression, the majority of those with MS, and the majority of those with Alzheimer's. I started the women's Alzheimer's movement about 11 years ago. I've been an Alzheimer's advocate for the last 20 years because my dad got Alzheimer's 20 years ago. And I started approaching that. What is this? What can I learn about it? I approached it as a journalist. I wrote books on it. I did documentaries on it. And I kept seeing that more and more women were getting it, and more doctors and researchers were telling me that what I was seeing, I wasn't seeing. What I was talking about wasn't so. So I went about reporting on that, and lo and behold, what I was seeing, what I was reporting was in fact true. 2/3 of the people with Alzheimer's are women, and it cannot be just attributed that women live longer, that there is something going on in women at midlife that might put them on a faster trajectory to getting Alzheimer's. So I started the women's Alzheimer's movement to fund research into women's brains. The research into women's lives lags decades behind the lives of men. We've just started an initiative with President Biden to look into the federal government's allocation of funds to study women's health and research. And he's going to make that a priority with Dr. Biden. They've taken that issue on and said, we're going to focus on raising the amount of funds, raising the profile of women's health and research. The Women's Alzheimer's Movement partnered with the Cleveland Clinic to raise more money. We've started a prevention center there, Women's Alzheimer's Prevention, Health, and Research. They're going to inaugurate a huge women's health center. So there is a new focus on women's health spans. This is not at the expense of men. I want to be clear. I have 2 sons, 4 brothers. I love men, but women need to catch up. This is an equity conversation. It's bringing women's health and research up to the same level as to what we know about men. And I'm determined to try to find some kind of cure for Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. So that's a mission of mine, to understand the brain, to understand how the brain ages. At what point can we intervene? At what point does the brain change? Is it impacted by food? Is it hormonal? Is it environmental? Is it a part of a chronic disease path? What is the reason that so many people get Alzheimer's? And I'm determined in my lifetime to change not only the narrative, which we have been successful in changing, but the trajectory of this disease, so that my children and your children and people who are 30 will not just be going off into the wild blue yonder expecting to get a neurological disease with no hope or no cure for it.
Wow. Thank you. Really, a big bow to you for that, because I know, as a psychologist, a few decades ago, we were noticing that, yes, all the research on psychological development, on human development, was actually research into male development.
Correct. Yeah. I think people don't understand that the drugs that they're taking have been researched on white men, women too, right? I don't think they understand that women have not been a part of research. I think they wonder, like, well, why don't we have more knowledge about menopause or perimenopause or autoimmune diseases or, different forms of pregnancies or the pregnancy journey? And then when they find out, well, we just haven't researched it, or we don't know we don't know this or that about osteoporosis, or we don't know about how women age compared to men. They're gobsmacked that this is all a new thing. They're gobsmacked about the lack of research. And when I tell them that the federal government funding for women's health is at 11% of the budget, they are enraged. And so I'm hopeful, determined, energized about changing those figures, those numbers, and as I said, that narrative and trajectory.
Well, that brings me huge joy. I'm sure it brings joy to all the women, all the men who love the women, everyone who loves each other and cares about this world and community, that there be more equity in every way. And there's so many visible ways that hasn't been true. And it actually is a source of joy to me to see this being recognized and named and addressed.
Well, there you go. That's great that you do it, because to me, it's like maddening, and to you, it's a source of joy. So it takes both, right? My kind of maddening and my rage about it fuels me to get something done. And then my joy will come when it gets done. You just have great joy that it's being put out into the light. So I'm going to learn from you on that. So it's sometimes when you're in you're driving to get something done, you lose sight of your joy when your head is down and you're trying to meet a deadline and trying to push a boulder up the hill. And I sometimes think, like, oh my God, this is, where is the joy? But I like that you're saying, wow, there's just joy in shining a light on this gaping hole.
There is. I don't think I haven't had my own, rage.
I know. I just say it's great. I just learned something. So that's great.
But to see it being to see the light being shined on it, and to thank you so much for your huge part and determination. And, you're a powerhouse, Maria. And when you put your power and energy and heart behind something, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe, not just me, I believe when anybody puts their heart and their mind together behind something and is willing to stay the course, whatever they want to have happen will happen. It often takes much longer, I have to say, than one would like. It's often much more of a winding road than one would like and one thinks that it will be. So I always say that to people who are jumping into any mission. Be prepared for the long haul. Be patient, and also be in a hurry. Have just enough joy with just enough rage and madness to get something done. Hold these conflicting feelings, but really stay committed to the long haul. As I said to you, I've been 20 years or more in the trenches in the Alzheimer's space. My mother spent an entire lifetime in the intellectual disability space. trying to bring equity to people with intellectual disabilities in schools, in housing, in healthcare, in sports. She devoted her life, and it still didn't equal at the end. Before she died, she didn't realize her vision and her mission 100%. It continues to this day. Or I watched my uncle, Senator Kennedy, work his entire career for healthcare. For everybody, for parity in mental and physical health care. He devoted his life to doing it, and he didn't see the success that he envisioned in his lifetime. It went on to become Obamacare, and Obama picked it up and carried it across the finish line. But I think building community and having a vision for the long haul, personal vision for the long haul, a mission vision, a professional vision. I think it's really great to have a vision. You may not achieve it in your lifetime, but you know where you're going. You know that you have a vision and where it's leading you.
And I think when you talk about it that way, you're really describing a kind of integration or unification of, heart, of mind, of purpose, of determination, of all of these elements that go into staying the course.
Yeah.
And paradoxically, they actually can bring elements of joy into the journey, which we need because it can be so hard.
Like you and Jack, you want to make sure that everybody in the world is meditating, right? That is living a joyful, compassionate life, that learns about what you've learned, right? So that is your life's goal, right? That you want to bring all of that, all of what you've learned to other people. And your hope is that all of us can learn from you. That's a big vision.
We want to share what we love in this life. So as we close together, Maria, I want to invite you to let people know how they can find out more about the work you're doing and about you. So please.
Well, they can first sign up for the Sunday paper. It's a free weekly publication. There's also a Maria Shriver Sunday paper. It's a hub for all kinds of incredible, uplifting, inspiring, informative content. So they can sign up for the Sunday paper. They can go to mariashriver.com. They can go to the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, and they can go to Mosh Life, which is the home for the protein bars that my son and I have created that are made for the brain. They're brain and body fuel, and they fund research at the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. So mariashriver.com, the Sunday paper, the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, and Mosh Life, and then you got me covered. Or buy one of my books and you can read that and still go to all those other places.
Well, Maria, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, for being part of the summit, for having this wonderful conversation together. It is a real joy to see you.
Joy to see you, Trudy. And be well. Take care of your health.
Thank you.
I hope to see you and Jack soon at my table.
I hope so too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.